Hi, this is Privateer Station, and today we'll bring you day 254 of Russian invasion into Ukraine, with Olexiy Arestovych, advisor to the office of the President of Ukraine, Lieutenant Colonel, and Mark Feygin, a Russian opposition politician. Today they discuss situation on the front, what is going on down on Kherson, lack of attack in Bakhmut direction, and new developments near Ugledar area. Another Putin's mistake, and what can Russian mobilized troops do in the 21st century war? Visit of the White House advisor Sullivan to Ukraine, more supplies and refusal to negotiate with Russia until full withdrawal of troops from the Ukraine territory, and new statements by Russian leadership. Enjoy! Dear friends, I'm glad to see you all on Feigin Live. It is Friday, November 4th. Time is 3 minutes past 10 in Kiev and 23 or 11 p.m. in Moscow. We're doing another stream with Olexiy Arestovich. Olexiy, glad to see you. Good evening. So you've missed 2 days. No, okay. 1 day is on me. Right, Mark, you were away. Okay, so 1 day I was away, the other day you were away. We were all cursed by our viewers. Day 254. Do not forget to subscribe to both channels and to the Privateer Station if you are listening or watching that in English. We have about 150,000 people watching us live, and about 50,000 of you clicked the like button. So, since we missed 2 days, what happened on the fronts? On the fronts, okay. Let's start with Kherson and address all the questions people have. Are the Russian troops really leaving Kherson? No, they're not. They moved and changed their position a little bit. Their task is to minimize their front line and make it a bit more compact, just a little bit, kilometer or two, and to create defense a bit more effective, a bit more saturated, to make it more difficult for our troops to advance. What do I think about that? I think then start to understand that they will not be able to hold Kherson. Wait, but they do have a lot of mobilized troops. Is it not enough? Right, they do have troops, but supply lines are still thin. And in the long term, it's very difficult to hold it. They got tiny threads of supplies coming through that are being shot up every time. So their goal now is to try to make Kherson operation so bloody that Ukraine would not be able to transfer anything from this front in the next 2 to 3 months. And they do hope to destroy cadre of our troops during this on this war theater, during this fight for Kherson. So now it appears that they posed a task for themselves to destroy us to the max. But sorry to interrupt you, there is some game going on that Stromosov and the others were imprinting that on people clumsily, but we're leaving, we're doing all the restrictions for the movement of civilians in the area. It's just a military area, or everybody has to leave. How do you see that? I think they try to cosplay Feygin and Arestovich in their statements. Among others, we were the ones who dragged them into that area, right? So it appears they do peddle this disinformation campaign as well. But the problem is they're doing that exactly same as they're doing other things in this war, very clumsily. The Institute of War also commented on their movement in the area, saying that some elements are being withdrawn, but military is definitely staying. And it is obvious, if you look at the satellite imagery, you're still on these positions, so why are you stating that you are leaving? It is a bit clumsy, right? It's kind of stupid. Why do you expect to deceive the satellite eye? Well, one needs to be real clumsy and stupid to have started this war. Wait, what if they... Hang on, what if they just blow up the dam and just flood everything? No, Mark, imagine that. They blow up the dam, they flood everything, they shut down all the supply lines to Kherson group, and what happens to them? Very quickly. So they do have some airborne troops, they do have some special forces, they do have some cadre military there. If they want to withdraw and flood, they need to withdraw real fast because their bank to which they're withdrawing, they would need to flee real fast. They need to quickly evacuate Kherson and the right bank, move as far away as they can, and then blow up the dam to avoid being flooded as well and to avoid drowning. So problem is, if they go with that plan, who will stay on the dam? Who will stay there to blow it up? They would need to leave some explosives there. They would need to leave some troops on the dam. They would need to basically have us very passive in this case. So imagine they're withdrawing the troops, they're leaving somebody on the dam, maybe leave chmobiks, the mobilized people, and withdraw all the professionals out and then do that flooding. So it's interesting. It's even if want to use the explosives and blow up the dam, it's a very non-trivial task to make it somewhat effective and somewhat logical without sacrificing your own troops. So, okay, if they're not doing that, what are they going to do? Are they going to do city warfare? Do they want to stay in the city? Yeah, they could do that. And what if Ukrainian troops just surround Kherson, don't go in? Probably that's an option. Thing is, they do want us to attack the city because that's the probably much easier defensible position for them than anything. Just like us, we had no chance of withstanding Russian attacks in the field. Nobody could. We defended ourselves effectively on the outskirts of the cities and towns. Just remember Lysychansk. So it's a bit difficult, right? We'll see how it goes. It's difficult to predict what deception are they running in this case. Is it like 2-3 level deep? Mark, there's no real deception. They're making very clumsy attempts to try to tell us something is not what it is. But what I also see is they're training their own population that a difficult decision needs to be made. It's Surovikin, it's Timausov. They all are talking about difficult decisions and possibility of leaving Kherson. So, Surovikin is a collaborant, right? So you can easily use him. Oh, sorry, not Surovikin. Timausov is a collaborant who can come out and say, yeah, we're giving it up back to Ukraine. And Surovikin makes statements. So at some point, yeah, what happens to those who people consider to be responsible for failures. Right, it's not the one who led to the failure, but the one who came out and announced it. So we'll see how that develops. Ukredar is a difficult area. They concentrated some effort. It is not easy for our troops. We're resisting. There's a lot of heavy fighting. They did not have any strategic or tactical success on this front. They managed to push a little in a couple places, but that's it. So who's fighting there? Whom do you fight there with? There are some mobilized, probably a couple mobilized battalion groups, a couple of cadre, a couple of Donetsk and Lugansk areas troops. So and artillery. But we'll manage. We'll manage, Mark. It's difficult at the moment, but we are figuring out. What is on the eastern front? Well, we kicked them away from Bakhmut by several kilometers. So now they're picking different positions to attack, because when we kicked them away, we also picked better positions for defense of that area. So it becomes really difficult to advance anywhere. So they're canceling Bakhmut. They're now pushing it near Solidar. That's a little bit north of Bakhmut. We are holding there. We got our own little tricks going on that help us to hold that area better. And they basically move those human waves of 8 attacks till lunchtime to Solidar. In the north, they're trying to get to Bilogorovka. They've been attempting to do that for quite a while. Kind of useless, doesn't work for them. R66, that road that goes along the red front, you see, all the way from the north down to Kremenaya. This is under our fire control, so they cannot really use that road. And there are no major changes in that area. Okay, so this is all about the general layout of the front. Yeah, we touched upon the hottest spots in the front. Of course, the other areas are also active. There is artillery and skirmishes, but we just touched the major hotspots. Any activity in the north, or still the same? Nothing new in the north. Okay, another piece of news that people were discussing. It started showing up little by little, and now they're discussing more and more and more. So remember how they had Z troops at the beginning, then there was the grandma with the flag, and now there is another one coming up. There is a military correspondent station from Komsomolskaya Pravda. He worked for FSB all his life. He was provoking people to communicate about different things, and then he would be writing a long description of his conversation and reporting that to FSB, and people would be put in jail or questioned. So him and Kots, another true Russian, Putin's patriot Kots, writing about Kuzmichi. This is somewhat a name coined for mobilized troops. He is talking about mobilized 40-year-olds, those who are savvy enough to distinguish between a criminal attempt to take over business and just sending a feeler to how the business runs, who know how to behave in prison. Kind of weird, right? Description here. So these people do not need to be agitated and politically corrected. They know who are theirs and where is the enemy. Just don't keep them for an idiot, because he is risking his life fighting this war. So these people will carry this war for Putin. These middle-aged mobilized, let's translating that from propaganda to the human language, middle-aged 40-plus-year-old Russian citizen from somewhere in the middle of Russia will carry on his shoulders the war that was lost by professional military and achieve some sort of intermediary result. Go Russian Kuzmich, freaking die on the front. Do you think, rhetorically speaking, do you think it's just cynicism? And actually, what can that Kuzmich do in the 21st century in the front? They're thinking they built a new meme. They're very creative. But that's very reminiscent of the same story about Chechen War, in the first Chechen War, when people were talking, yeah, there are contract troops, but it was really conscripts who won this war, but they actually lost this war. Anyway, did anyone ask those Kuzmich people how they describe them? Those people who are steady, who are reliable, who are fighting as it needs to be done. That was always in the media. They were always trying to create that group of people, but the problem is we're not seeing them. Also, it's hard to motivate the ones they mobilized. With these memes, good luck. And the usual question I would pose is, what's the motivation? You can be methodical, that's a value, especially in infantry on the ground, but what's the motivation of these troops? That's a very big question. And also in the modern war, how much can they do without much training? If you're not a professional of war fighting, you really do not stand much chances of surviving long. Well, why I'm bringing this up? Russian war is often carried by the Russian citizen mobilized sometime during the big war, and who can provide a respite for professional troops and who can also stuff the holes in the front with his bodies. I am posting here a statement that it is not much use anymore in the 21st century, because these days you can be patient as you are, and then the HIMARS missile comes and you're gone. Because modern warfare is very effective at a distance. Right, modern warfare, 85% casualties are caused by artillery. Okay, yeah, 85%. That's significant. That is a percentage that's definitely winning or losing the war. And metal ball, wolfram ball can fly through. Doesn't care. Kuzmich, Ilyich, or any cadre troop. So, do you think they're mistaken with that meme? I see no chance. They just pushed the defeat away for about 2 to 3 months in time. They knew that from the beginning because they're relying on that mythical Republican takeover in the American Parliament, in the American Congress and Senate. And they're hoping basically, like Hitler hoped in the end of Second World War for miracle weapon for Wenk's army, and the end will be very similar. Okay, so yeah, this topic is clear. Let's switch to peace and to negotiations and G20 summit. Sullivan visited Kiev. Moscow propaganda was talking about it. He talked about conditions and terms, and Moscow was publicizing everywhere that Sullivan is there to make Ukraine go talk, go negotiate, that the West wants to negotiate with Russia. And what can Kiev do in this situation? So, how would you read that? Mark Sullivan said himself, better than I can. He said that United States refused to negotiate with Russian Federation. And even if these negotiations would be possible, the main term of these negotiations would have been complete withdrawal of all Russian troops from Ukrainian territory. Until then, no negotiations are possible. I don't remember, maybe in Reagan times when I was, 10 years old, when the United States made statements that they're refusing from negotiation. And that was just stated up blatantly, without any caveats, ifs and buts. And the West is supporting Ukraine, and Sullivan commented that Ukraine is supported by the United States, and the victory terms will be defined by Ukraine the way they see that. He also brought us good present, new package of American armor, a lot of armored equipment, M1117, 240 pieces, 90 tanks, T-72, from Slovakia, 1,500 UAVs, Phoenixes, that are better than Iranians, much better, and they're used for close tactical engagement. It's not for fighting some civilian targets 1,000 miles away. So the main part is a very powerful armor package. That's what we talked about. 90 tanks is a full-blooded tank brigade. 240 armored vehicles, armored personnel carriers, probably 40 for battalion at max. That's 6 battalions. That's a lot. That's significant. So you think that can significantly change the front? Absolutely, that can allow us to refit 2 tank brigades. And in the current condition of war, anywhere they come, anywhere that force appears, they do change the situation dramatically. All right, we have almost 330,000 watching us live. 87,000 clicked the like button. We've been live for about 19 minutes. Please continue sharing links to that stream in your social media. And I remind you that our streams are happening the usual time, Kiev time, at 10 p.m. Unfortunately, in Moscow, since they did not switch to winter time, it is 11 p.m. A little on the later side, but there are no ways to make it sooner, unfortunately. It is important for us that those who cannot watch us live, especially in Russia, do watch that stream recorded. So please continue sharing links, continue telling those people who need to see our data, our information, where to see that. Actually, I'm looking at the stats, Mark. It appears that people do catch up later. We have a lot more viewers watching us in recorded version than live. Yeah, they do, they do. But there is also a big group that wants to watch us live because of, the feeling of live presence. Well, come on, Mark. 11 p.m. is not too critical. If somebody really wants to watch us, they can still stay up. Yeah, let's see how it goes. We'll try to consider all the circumstances, but please continue sharing the links. Okay, more questions about Lend-Lease. Somebody's probably provoking them. I'm getting them, you're getting them. I don't know how else to address that. Perhaps it is in a context of looming elections into Congress that are bound to happen this coming week in the United States. Lend-Lease by itself, is it the right of president to provide help without turning to Congress for approval? Yes, the way it was adopted, that is exactly that. All the division between Dems and conservatives that somebody said that Republicans, upon taking over, will stop any support to Ukraine. Oh yeah, there was some lady on the cameras today, kind of juicy, talking that they will stop supporting Ukraine, they'll stop wasting money on Ukraine, one of the candidates. Yeah, the thing is, again, current legal framework allows United States president to support Ukraine, avoiding requesting additional approval and support from Congress. And current American position is that they're eager to support Ukraine until Ukraine's victory. All the rhetoric that is coming up, that is bubbling up, seems to be pre-election rhetoric. They're turning to their electoral votes to try to massage that side. But public opinion polling shows that support to Ukraine increased from 50% to about 60% in the last few months. And that's just the increase in the last few months. Overall support of war in Ukraine, overall support of Ukraine is at 70% in the United States. So they're also different, and no politician will run against that percentage. 60, 70%, that's suicidal to go against that. And frankly, there are different groups working. Only isolationist group in Republican Party is making these statements that they will stop supporting Ukraine, and Republican Party consists of different groups. Plus, there is, of course, the Democrat side, there is also a deep state, there is also a military complex, there's a whole bunch of other political actors that currently set on helping us win this fight. So I think it is not as drastic as Russia hopes the elections will be.
Пошалил сутки, его вернули. По одной простой причине, потому что первый же день, когда сказали, мы вышли, все сказали, мы вышли.
So tell us more about the grain situation. Seems like Putin decided to go back to it. Well, yeah, all his might was worth one day and one meeting with Erdogan where he got slapped. So when they withdrew, Turkey and Ukraine basically said, so what? We have 100 ships going and another 100 being loaded. And it is being protected by Turkish fleet, given the fact that the fleet of Turkey is about 15 times more strong than Russian fleet in the Black Sea. And Russia really had no influence, frankly, on what was going on. Turkish expert was just laughing in one of the interviews. When he was asked about that, he was laughing, saying, okay, so if they decide to disrupt the grain route, what will they do it with? They lost half the fleet. They have some ships without crew because they took seamen from there and sent them to fight. on the ground in Kherson area, and then there are other ships that they're hiding behind Crimea, that they're tucking away just in case to avoid being shot by Ukrainian missiles. And now they're going to do what? To attack Turkish fleet? So he just laughed in the stream on the TV. And I think Putin was also told that he's risking 100 million people's lives, maybe even potential hunger, but still, the fact of this rhetoric is posing a threat over 100 million people. And there are a lot of interests in that group. There are a lot of interests by Islamic countries, by other players in the Middle East, even Saudi Arabia. They will provide themselves with more expensive bread, but they are not interested in their neighbors starving and causing all the turmoil in the area. So Erdogan, as basically an emissary of all that group, of all that region, quickly explained to Mr. Putin the consequences of his decision. And one of the African newspapers actually went further. They printed Putin's face in there, and a popular one as far as I understand, and wrote that if you guys will be starving this year, this is the person to blame. Also, I don't know if you know this story. For example, in Ethiopia, 3/4 of bread being given as an aid to population is Ukrainian. But it is being distributed by Russian diplomatic mission. And they, of course, capitalized on that, so Ethiopians believed that it was Russian bread that they were getting, until recently when they started seeing the light that is actually Ukrainian bread, and it's Ukraine who supports them. So they're starting to see the light there too, and these publications do help when they point fingers and saying, hey, this is the buddy who is trying to starve you. All right, please continue sharing links, continue subscribing to Feygin Live, and despite the switch to wintertime, please come see us. You know, that evolution of Russian thought is amazing. I'm trying to remember who was saying that. Rybkov was saying, yeah, NATO, get the F out of our borders or we'll destroy everything and everyone. And now, 8 months later, they are asking, please take us back into the grain deal. Well, right, the difference between them is 8 months of defeat in Ukraine. Okay, so another thing. Let's leave Medvedev for dessert. Digestive. Let's look at Putin's statements today. It's November 4th, and he commented on a few more things. So what did he say? The clash with neo-Nazis was inevitable, and he's sitting there with different historians who are just nodding. Yeah, very stellar historians. The war and the conflict in Ukraine is a conflict between the same peoples, essentially. So, you know, you're the same nation as Putin. Europe was the center of politics, but that's in the past. How can someone say that Ukraine liberated Europe? This is insanity. I'm just quoting him from that speech. He was talking about people from Donbass, Kherson. He met somebody near Memorial to Minin and Pozharsky. They, again, probably brought some security and protection service people to and dress them up as people to meet Putin. Oh, Medvedev, by the way, commented on Satanism. His wife, according to different media publications, she actually donated a lot to different cults and occult practices. You know, you think Medvedev is an idiot, but isn't that joke? He is a spare, he is not an extra. Right, one of his nicknames is Dildo. So he's small though, but... Well, Putin started to make more statements, right? He is more often on camera. What is a sign of? It is a sign of losing a situation that he needs to continue motivating, to continue explaining, because he is an idiot with his mobilization move. He destroyed a lot of public trust with that. And people had a picture that they can live under that corrupt regime and they can still get mortgages, get their life goals accomplished. He interrupted that. He disrupted that faith. So in our case, we're basically defending our territory, right? We don't need much ideology. We're defending our lives and our freedoms and our families. In his case, he is on the foreign territory, so you need to be out there explaining to your people what the heck is your army doing in the neighboring country. And he keeps calling us fascists, right? Fascists that are being helped by Israel, by 52 countries in the world. So it is almost to the point where I'm tired of saying they're accusing us of what they are doing, what they're guilty of. And yeah, Putin is probably semi-deteriorated persona. Medvedev is a complete deterioration state. Oh yeah, in his statements he says everybody's a follower of satanic cult in Zelensky's government. Oh yeah, that is coming from their philosophy of Katechon, like the last god city surrounded by the forces of evil. And now that it's really burning, they start to spill it out in the public, in the media. Right, in their private mess or private event, they can discuss all that Katechon and all these fancy mythology, but now they're starting to spill it out in the media as well, as it gets tougher going, with references to Dugin and all the Putin's ideological supporters. Nobody, by the way, likes calling everybody Satan more than Satan, because according to theosophic beliefs and concepts, Satan is the biggest liar, is the biggest pretender. Well, Putin is not a religious person, right? He's not Jamal, right? He just is making general statements. So they imprinted his philosophy leaders like Dugin and such imprinted certain data sets on him, on Medvedev, and that's what they're blabbering on the media. Yeah, if you're educated in religion, all what they're saying is pretty heretical, but they're not scared. Vladimir Zelensky also issued or looked into artistic events and artists who used to work on both territories of Russia and Ukraine, and there's probably some regulation coming. Why am I looking at that? By the way, remember that Artemy Lebedev, the son of Tolstoy, another Russian journalist and writer, and he's a rather big pro-Putin opponent, supporter. He apparently had a big apartment in Kiev, and he's divorcing now with his wife and 6 children. That's quite a bit. I don't know if they're all his, but anyway, I wonder if he still has this apartment in Ukraine. So Ukrainian authorities, if there is a way to look into that, perhaps look into this in light of that new law or new regulations you're adopting. So in general, what do you think? Very often when they talk about creative careers, very often propaganda and media people fall into the same group. I know you're taking a very moderate position in regulating things as such. So it depends upon how they formulate this initiative. It'll either be a Ukrainian National Security Office statement or Parliament will make a law, because, you know, creative activity, everything can be described as creative activity, even yours and mine. Streams here could be considered a creative activity. So I'm careful. I think there'll be more. They'll be looking deeper into this to try to frame it more gently. What if, for example, Makarevich came to sing, or Shenderovich came to talk and discuss things? Well, there is already some regulation in that area. They're already not extending visas to Ukraine unless you have immediate relatives, unless you have kids in Ukraine. And they are, however, there's a special group there in getting visas. The artists who supported Ukraine in their resistance to Putin. And it's also about visas and the green cards, the right to live in Ukraine. We already have that regulation that those people of culture who did not support Putin, who voiced their vocal support of Ukraine, there's already a precedent for that. So Makarevich, Pugacheva, Galkin, do not even worry. You guys can come. You're welcome to be here. So that's good. Those who posted their position publicly, that's important because they do affect things. Good, good. We've been live for 35 minutes, 365,000 people watching us. And what, tomorrow do we have a stream? Yeah, we do. Okay, Saturday we do have a stream tomorrow. Do not worry. People were excited about why we were not live for 2 days. Guys, we've been doing that for 9 months already. You know, things happen. We can miss a day or two here and there. Two little things at the end I wanted to address. Our friend Mikhail Krieger, whom I know for many, many years from movement Solidarity, he was picked by police. There'll be a court tomorrow. They're trying to get him on Article 205, terrorism. They searched his apartment. He was singing Ukrainian anthem on the Red Square. So yeah, in their vision, they need to put him to prison for life. Very intelligent gentleman. Well, obviously, there is no way I can help him right now, but I need to warn everybody who is prosecuting him. After Putin regime topples, I'll become a prosecutor and I'll execute you all, everybody who is involved. So always look back, make sure you have an alibi, because when we come back to power, we will not just put you back in those prisons where you belong, or most of you, those most active of you, will probably not get a pardon and might end up real quickly. Anyway, our charity program is also going. Feygin and Arestovich, please continue visiting our stores and buying all kind of merch you guys like, whatever looks good for you, especially some new designs where, let me bring it up, t-shirts, mugs, see? Somebody even sent me as a present a mug with my own mug. Cool one, I like it. And tomorrow I hope we'll announce next grantees. We got some more cash to give around. There are some soldiers seriously wounded who lost their limbs, more kids who lost their families, and we're still trying to look for Bogdan. So if you have his contacts, we talked about him. He's from Bakhmut. He was rescued by Ukraine National Police, and he lives at his aunt's place. So if you have his contacts, please send that to us. All right. On that, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Olexiy. We'll see you tomorrow at 10 p.m. And of course, subscribe to Feigin Live, to Olexiy Arestovich, and to the Privateer Station if you listen to that in English. And do not forget to share links. See you tomorrow.